Welcome to the Boomer Briefing Podcast, where we help you solve a critical business issue in 20 minutes or less. I'm your host, Jon Hubbard, shareholder and consultant here at Boomer Consulting. And my guest today is Sandra Wiley. Hi, Sandra. Thank you for being on this episode of the podcast.
Hi, Jon. Glad to be here.
All right. Our topic today is empowering your firm's talent with training and learning opportunities. Now, I know this has been a big topic over the last year, and you even hosted some special events for this audience around this topic. So we have a lot to cover on this episode, but let's start with a big question. Why is it important for firms to create a training and learning or a learning and development strategy?
You know, I do love this topic, and you know that we've been involved at Boomers with training and learning for over 20 years now. I mean, we started a training symposium years ago. Today, we have our learning and development circle that we run. So we've been really strong proponents of people that are doing learning and training for a long time. But why is it, I would say, why was it more important today than maybe it's been in the past? You know, as much as I hate to even really mention the whole Great Resignation thing, it's happening. I just saw a post today from the talent circle about what are your turnover rates? What have they been over the last couple of years? And it's high. I mean, turnover is higher today than it has ever been. I mean, I saw numbers of 23, 25%, and that makes you scared. Here's what I would tell you. The firms that have a really great learning and development environment are those that are retaining more of their team. We know that we need to create an environment where employees want to stay with us. They want to be a part of our firm because we're doing such great things. One of those things is learning and training. How can we give them an opportunity to look at their future and plan for their future? So employees are demanding that they see a career path, and that career path has to be something that they want and something that is valuable to the firm. And so that's all training and learning. It all ties to that strategy. And it's amazing to me how many firms do not have a learning and training strategy or a plan, but that's what you need. And if you're not doing that today, I think you could be in trouble as we go ahead and get ourselves through this whole Great Resignation thing. I'd like to see us turn it into like the great opportunity, right? This is our time to figure out how to make our employees love us even more. Training and learning is one of those things.
Yeah, and you just highlighted a lot of things there, but the truth of the matter is firms' employees are reevaluating their lives. They're reevaluating what their professional lives look like, what their personal lives look like. They're reevaluating what their futures look like. In some ways, they feel like their future has more opportunity than ever before. And if your employees aren't able to see a path for themselves within your firm, then they'll go somewhere else that can. Right. And it all kind of starts to tie back to learning and training or learning and development and creating those pathways, as you mentioned, for your team. So when you think about, training and development, oftentimes it gets categorized into two big areas, things like soft skills or core skills and things like technical skills. And there's probably other buckets outside of that or more nuanced. But as you work with firms to help them develop their strategies or at least think through them, what are some ideas you're throwing their way in terms of how they can think about those two categories and how to put those together in a compelling way for not just their firm, but for the staff as well?
What the first place I tell people to start with, what I tell firms is start with your performance plan. When you look at the performance that people are, whatever your strategy is there, whether you have a performance module that you're doing, whether you have goals that are set quarterly or yearly, whatever your process is, make sure that you're having a conversation with the people that are there about here's where the firm is going. Here's what we believe your talent path is. And here's where we think you're going. Tell me if you think that's right. Are you happy with that? Do you think being the director of tax is where you want to be? Or do you think the director of audit is where you want to be? have that conversation with them, because sometimes, especially if they trust you, they're going to sometimes look at you and say, well, I guess, because that's where I think you want me to go. No, that's not the question. Where do you want to go? And here's a great story. I think this is one of those times when I wish that I could have been there on the fly on the wall, because one of the firms I work with said, we asked the person, they were great. I mean, they're going to be one of our rising stars, and they were going to be there. We thought they were going down the tax road. We thought they were going to be our professional that was in charge of tax. They left to go to a wealth management company to become a wealth management advisor. Guess what? On their strategic plan, they said, we're exploring having a wealth management area of our firm. And that person, here's what happened. The young man looked at it and said, oh, I'd like to do that. Went to another company to do it. So now the firm is left. They lost their rising star. They don't have a wealth management unit. And I said, call him back. Tell him that you'll see if there's something you can do. But the reality is they didn't have the right conversation. If they'd had the conversation about where do you see your career going, and if there was enough trust that the person could tell you what they thought, he might have said, I'd really love to go into wealth management. And they could have carved out that path for him, but they didn't know. And it's just one of those sad situations. So what I would say is, as you're looking at soft skills or technical skills, ask your people what they want. You know, we have Greenbelt training. That's something we do at Boomer. And that is all about process improvement. I can guarantee you right now, there's at least one or two people in your firm today that have a natural propensity to love to fix processes, to make them lean and efficient and effective and get capacity back. They may or may not be in your technical staff, right? They may not be CPAs, but I'm telling you, they're there. You have to talk to people about what they want. You and I are a big part of our certified consultant training, and I know we're getting to ready to revamp that a little bit right now, but I can guarantee you that there's one or two people in your firm that want to be advisors and want to be consultants. They just don't know how. We can help with that. So there's all these things that are out there. We just have to let people, we have to guide them and help them figure out what they are. You want to keep great people, train them to do new things and get them excited about their business again and about their life again. And the resignation thing won't happen. They will resign from a job that they have at your firm and go to another job at your firm. That would be cool, right? I think that'd be cool.
Absolutely. And I love what you started with there, where you started talking about performance plans or starting with performance management. And that's all tied to a firm's vision, strategic plan. And I want to read something for you that I came across on, of all places on Twitter that I think highlights or kind of says in a different way what you were driving home. And that is, telling someone you need them to paddle a boat is very different from telling them where you're going, how they will help you get there, and what their experience will be along the way. Right? And I think too often firms just want their people to paddle the boat, but there's not a clear vision. They don't know where their future lies within that. They're not being asked, which is, one of your main points. What do you want to be learning? How do you want to be growing? What do you want to be experiencing as our firm moves this direction? And you were just driving that home there.
Yep.
So I think that's really important. Not enough conversations are happening before the fact. They all come up after the fact when someone leaves. And isn't
that the truth, John? Sometimes it's like, and almost everybody, when you lose a superstar, almost everybody says, oh man, we should have. And that it always starts with, we should have. And then they fill in the blank, right? Well, stop the should haves and do it, right? Do it now. And also quit waiting for everything to go back to normal. This is your normal, but you are now in normal, right? This is it. People working flexibly, people working remotely, people wanting a new career path that doesn't look like the career paths that we had 2 years ago. That's our new normal. And I'm quite frankly super excited about it. I'm stoked about it.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to get every leader out there that are in CPA firms. We have to get them excited about it too,
Yep.
because that's where the change will happen.
Yep. Well, and the other aspect of that, Sandra, is sometimes your people don't know what they exactly want
Yep.
themselves. And it's such a valuable conversation when the firm takes the initiative to say, well, we can help you figure that out. We want to have these conversations with you. And that creates a lot of stickiness. That creates that trust that you were talking about, that relationship. So even if your people don't have clear and concise answers for exactly what they want, just the fact that you're having that conversation is
Right.
huge. So,
Exactly.
all right. So, Sandra, as you work with firms around this topic, just like all topics, you see firms that are doing this really well, and maybe you see firms that are really struggling with this. Let's talk about the firms you see doing this well. What are some of the successes, or what are some of the benefits you're just seeing kind of happen as firms more proactively develop a training and learning plan for their teams?
I guess I'll talk about as on the success side of the stories. I'm going to talk about our learning and development circle and the leaders in the learning and development area that are coming to that circle. When I listen to their stories and when I listen to the strategies they're putting into place, and they are being successful, I think that's the first thing. You have somebody that really has a passion for learning and development, and they have a aptitude for that, and they are finding ways to infuse training and learning in every level, in every niche that's within your firm. So I think that's the first thing. The second thing is management buys into it. They're not there because somebody said, oh, we probably need learning and training, so let's go hire somebody. They're there because the CEO and the C-suite and the partner group all said, we need somebody who knows how to do this. We know how to be accountants. Somebody else knows how to train and learn, and we need to find that person. And they're the ones that are successful. And what does success look like? People are happier. You do an engagement survey, and the people that have a really good learning and training program, the survey always shows that they're more engaged. If you go and talk to some of the people that are at the firm, they're super excited about their career path. When you look at the turnover rates, they are low. I said, when you look at some of the turnover rates that I'm looking at, when I see the talent circle talking right now, 25%, that's scary. When I see some of those firms that have really great learning and training programs that have really dived into what people want, those turnover rates are maybe 8 to 10%. I mean, we're talking less than half of those other firms. That says everything. And again, just look at the happiness factor of the people that have really great learning and training programs. It's high. The quadrant is high. So, I mean, that's where you're going to see great benefit. There's a lot of firms talking about their sustainability over the next 5 to 8 years. This is just one of the pieces, but it's a super important piece to sustainability. So that's what I would tell them. That's where the benefit comes in.
Yep. And Sandra, I work with a lot of firms in the area of growth.
Yeah.
And typically when you think about growth, you think about maybe it's business development or marketing and winning new business, and all those things are great. But it also has to do with competition and finding a competitive advantage. And oftentimes I get asked the question, hey, how can we get more of a competitive advantage in the marketplace? And where their
Yep.
mind's at when they're asking that is some sort of special marketing technique or business development strategy. And there's nothing wrong with those, obviously. But what you're talking about is a huge competitive advantage.
Yeah.
Being a firm that has a strong learning and development culture that is tuned into what their people want and the direction the firm is heading, that helps with attraction, retention, of course, development.
Yeah.
It's such a core component of if you're a firm that wants to be competitive in the marketplace, and I'm using air quotes for those listening here and not watching, an unfair competitive advantage, which is we're all looking for.
Yeah.
I think you're highlighting something that we're not talking enough about within that context as well. So Sandra,
I agree.
we always try and kind of look at different topics from outside the profession as well, because there's always a tie. We're not that special as a profession in terms of, yeah, we have some unique challenges and some unique opportunities, certainly, but things that are going on in our profession are going on in other professions too. And it's always really helpful just to kind of look on that side of the equation and say, what can we learn? As you think about this topic outside of the accounting profession, what insights do you have, or what are you seeing?
Well, again, that whole great resignation, that is not about accounting firms. That's about our world right now. So employees are in every profession. And if we are not treating them well in accounting, guess what? They're going to other professions. And guess what? If they don't like that, they're leaving there and going somewhere else. So the same thing applies to every profession out there. It really is not an accounting thing. I believe that it is every single company that is out there has to do the right things, and training and learning is just a part of that for everybody. We're all competing for the same talent at this point. It used to be we were competing only for CPA firms. We were competing for accounting staff, and it was just us. Today, everybody is looking for a good accounting person to be in their company. If they're smart, they are. And guess what? So our competition just got enormously large, and so it's everybody. This is a talent war that is not just about accounting. This is about every single company out there.
Excellent point, Sandra. So as we round out our conversation here, because we're getting close to our limit, we always like to clearly define, hey, what's the one next step? If someone were to stop listening to this podcast right after this episode and they could go do one thing, or you would encourage them to do one thing, what would that be?
Well, I hope it doesn't sound terribly self-serving, but you need to get on the Boomer website and go into the little chat box and make an appointment to talk to us, because we can help guide firms and figure out where they are today, where their pain points are in training and learning, and help you find the right people that will help you. Sometimes that's Boomer Consulting. Sometimes that is another company that we are well connected with. And what we will do is help you find the right resources so that you can make the best steps forward. I want 2022 to be a better year than the last 2 or 3 years have been, right? And we can help you do that. So that's what I would do.
Yeah. And I don't think that's self-serving at all, because we know how complex this topic can be. We know every firm's kind of in a different spot with different ingredients to work with, so to speak. And so a short conversation can help us point them in the right direction and get them moving forward. All right, Sandra. Well, that is all the time we have for this episode. So as always, thank you for being on this episode of the podcast.
Thank you so much, John. It was great to be here. Love to talk with our audience.
Absolutely. And for those listeners, we release new episodes every Tuesday morning. So if you haven't subscribed to this podcast yet, please do. We always change up the topics. So go ahead and subscribe. Thanks so much.